I decided to try and beat Team Sonic Story in Sonic Heroes without picking up a single ring. I had a look on YouTube to see if this had been done before, and it had been deemed impossible by 2 people. Go and check their videos out if you haven't already, because let me tell you, some of the results in this video do differ from theirs. And that includes the first ever Casino Park run with 0 rings collected. So stay tuned for that. Alrighty then, ladies and gentlefolk. I'm deciding to move away from babies games and we're going back to some form of children's games. Today we're playing Sonic Heroes, and I was going to play Shadow Reloaded because it's been on like my backlog for a long time now. But I thought of something last night, which I don't know if anyone's already done on YouTube. They probably have, but I've not personally seen a video about it. Can we beat Sonic Heroes without collecting a ring? Now, obviously I watch these challenges all the time and I think to myself, Jesus Christ, that requires a lot of blood, sweat and tears, you know, I wouldn't be able to do that. But here we are, because, you know, I'm just a sucker for torture, as we've discovered over these past couple of weeks. But I'm excited to try it. Well, you know, all can be done. Also, if you haven't noticed, I'm down here now, because if I was up there, you wouldn't be able to see my ring count. Now then, let's go. Of course, we are playing this with emulation, as always. It's just easier for everybody. Right. Vamonos, challenge mode. We are going to be doing Team Sonic for this challenge. If I feel brave enough, then I will go and do the other teams. But for the time being, we're going to stick with the base game, and we'll see how far we can get with that. First up is Seaside Hill, and it didn't take me long to realise that there's going to be a small complication in terms of manoeuvring with this challenge. Okay. Oh, who's just picked a ring up? Okay, so we do have teammates in this game. Shit. I didn't account for that these guys are going to be able to pick rings up. Oh wait, yeah, let's just be Tails, because they're in the totem pole. Yes, I have solved the equation. We have to play the whole game as Tails. I didn't figure out that rainbow rings counted toward the ring count until a little bit later, so expect there to be a few of those errors. While we run through this then, look, a little bit of context I suppose. Sonic Heroes is my favourite Sonic game of all time. Hands down. And it was also the first video... Oh god. Yes, don't go through there, I know there's rings in there. It was also my first ever video game, so there is a lot of bias in that statement, but I don't care. I think Sonic Heroes always gets a lot of unnecessary shit from a lot of people. Oh wait, I have a ring in my bank. When the hell did that happen? When did that happen? When did we get a ring? I think it's when we switched to Knuckles. Someone might have ran off to the side and picked that ring up behind us. So we genuinely just need to stick with Tails. Shit. Something I should clarify quickly before we move any further is that I utilise save states during this playthrough, just to avoid doing complete restarts whenever I touch the ring, because a lot of these stages do require RNG to essentially get past without touching a ring, and that is mainly the casino stages. So if you consider that cheating, then boo-hoo, I had a bit more fun when doing it this way, because I didn't have to load infinite lives or anything stupid like that, because I probably would never have beat this challenge. Load a save state. So there are rings on the 2 red paths, but it doesn't look like there are any on the middle path. Oh, would you look at that. Let go of the thumbstick and the game does the exploit for you. Oh, bobsleigh. Shit. Right, now this is what concerns me, this part, because there's a hell of a lot of rings. This game practically gives rings out. Nice. Oh, that was close. Yes. When did I pick 2 rings up? What the hell happened? Do you get... Oh shit. Do you get rings when you go through rainbow rings? We're about to test this theory. You do. Oh my, I never knew that. I've been playing this game for years and I never ever knew that you get rings for rainbow rings. Okay, so don't hit any rainbow rings during this run. After this mini revelation, the rest of the stage was relatively smooth sailing apart from this one tiny little mistake. Don't take the middle one. That has never ever happened to me. With that done, we cleared Seaside Hill with relative ease and without collecting a single ring. Ocean Palace was up next, one of my favourite stages in the game, and this one went down relatively easy. There were a couple of moments where I had to think about what was actually going on and get a little bit creative, but beside that, it was pretty routine. It's such a great looking game, even like 20 years later. And also, technically, this is the most accurate game as far as translating that 2D art style goes, because the character models and all the shininess, looking like they've been dipped in pots of glue, it's actually trying to represent the highlights that were present on the drawings. A little art lesson for you. And obviously translating the classic formula of Act 1s and Act 2s, this is technically Act 2 of Seaside Hill, if you think about it like that. And Generation seems to think so, because it includes Ocean Palace as part of Seaside Hill. It's just one big act, separated into two zones. I miss this voice cast as well. Like, this voice cast was so good. Scott Dreyer as Knuckles is the best Knuckles. Tell me otherwise. Final part of the level now. Let's see how this goes for us, because we have to be Sonic, otherwise we are dead. Oh, we're dead. I'm loading my save state, because, you know, at least we're going to have some sort of points. That's the biggest fuck you ever from the game, saying like, yeah, no, you don't be Tails there. Yeah, okay. So now, this is the only issue. Everyone else is going to be picking up rings by default. That's their programming. So we need to try and I don't know, be as fast as we fucking can. Ah. Okay, that's progress. Ooh. Ah, Tails. Shit. I wonder, can we trigger the boulder to move? It turns out we can, and that's exactly what I did. So we got all the boulders to activate while we were stood behind them, so therefore all we had to do was slowly crawl to the goal ring with Tails, just to make sure we didn't run into the back end of them, and that is Ocean Palace with 0 rings. Naturally, I decided to also tackle the boss battles, so first up is Egghawk. This one was a difficult one at first because I considered it to be impossible from the get-go, considering that we essentially spawn on top of a ring. However, with a little bit of ingenuity and creative thinking and realising that we start the fight with 0 rings and not 1, we don't actually spawn on the ring directly, so we have time to move out of the way. And yes, that is possible. Going forward, the boss fight was as simple as can be, just don't touch a ring and watch what you're doing when you're punching Eggman. Smooth sailing to a completion with 0 rings. Stage 3, Grand Metropolis, fan favourite, beloved by many. This one didn't cause too many problems either, apart from a couple of silly little mistakes here and there, and a couple of sections caused a bit of difficulty, but other than that, once more, smooth sailing. It feels like every week a new rumour comes about of this game getting a remake as well, which oh, obstacle, Lightspeed Dash, nah. Yeah. There's like always a new rumour of this game getting remade every week, and I'm here for that, don't get me wrong. I really want a remake of Sonic Heroes, but based on how they handled Generations, you know, changing the script and everything like that, I don't want that for this game, because this game's got a great script already. Obviously the voice cast will have to be replaced, and that's a royal shame, because I love this voice cast to bits and pieces. They really bring these characters to life. Who grabbed that fucking ring? Yes. Oh shit. Oh, there's a spring, thank God. I was about to say, shit, that's a problem. Now, actually, I've just remembered, there is a section like that in Hein Castle, I think it is, where you are forced into a Lightspeed Dash. So, and I know it's a long Lightspeed Dash, it's part of the set piece. So that's going to be an issue when we get to it. What are you doing? Steady on. Careful, careful. And there we go. Grand Metropolis is done. Okay, so you might be wondering why my face has just taken up the entirety of your screen. Well, let's rewind and let me tell you why. You see this moment when the cat jumps onto the chair. It proceeds to then crawl onto the desk and hit the keyboard shortcut to make my OBS go into full cam mode, which is essentially only recording the webcam and not the gameplay anymore. So for the next roughly, I'd say 45 minutes, this was all that was captured, and that made me very upset, and this is the moment that I realised that. How long has that been like that? I lost almost 3 levels worth of footage, however, I'm an alpha gamer, so I decided to do it all again. In the name of content, I'll do it again. I'm not happy about it, but I'll do it again. So back to power plant I went. The first time around it caused me a little bit of difficulty, but having already figured out most of the routes and how to dodge a majority of the rings in the stage, it wasn't as bad on a second go around, so it wasn't all that bad in the long run. This was all well and good. However, while this was going on, I was completely oblivious to the issues the webcam was having, as you can see right now. It just began to glitch for no good reason, and it does this quite often. So before I managed to fix the problem, this had been going on for a while, so enjoy this instead. You hit that towards the right side. You need to touch that dash ring on its left side so that you don't end up running into the rings. You can ignore all these ones. Yeah, like that. There we go. One last little mini gauntlet. And we are home free. Lovely stuff. And that is how you do power plant ringless. Next we have our first rival fight, the battle against Team Rose, and this is where our first huge problem occurs. Unlike Egg Hawk where you drop onto a ring when the fight begins, this fight spawns you directly on top of a ring without any time to move out of the way. And no matter what you do, it is absolutely impossible to not pick this ring up. So therefore the challenge is deemed impossible, quite unfortunately. However, we're not going to stop. We're going to try and do this in as little rings as possible and the least rings ever documented on YouTube. So let's see how we got on with that instead. And I know just then I dropped a ring, okay? And if I finished the stage without that ring, I was not going to count that. We still technically collected a ring. Doesn't matter if we took damage, we collected a ring. Casino Park was up next, and this is where a majority of the problems began to arise. Of course, we have the unpredictability of the pinball physics in this game, with all 3 characters on the table at once, leaving rings susceptible to be picked up by any of them, including yourself. But that's only one part of the tale. The rest of it comes with this section here, with the big roulette wheel. For years, this has been thought impossible to get past without actually entering the wheel, and the wheel itself contains, I think, 12 rings, or just shy of that. Every YouTube video out there shows people always entering this roulette wheel, claiming it impossible to get past. So I made it my mission to find a way around it, as I was a firm believer that this gap was not too large to cross. So I spent a good, and I mean this, 1 hour and 45 minutes on this section trying to figure out how to get past it without entering the roulette wheel. I also just very rudely discovered by doing some research that the webcam had turned into a staticky mess, so I apologise for that. But anyways, I now have an idea of how to do this trick. It's a very rough idea. Never ever pulled it off before. Pulled it off. Oh, look at that. Okay, so this is... They just had to pick a ring up as soon as I had it, didn't they? There we go. Right, stave step. So the idea is to pop a team blast, and when we get over there, if we can get far enough, hopefully take advantage of our ability. To explain that a little bit better for everyone, essentially as Team Sonic, after you use a team blast, if you was to then try and pull off a tornado jump in front of an enemy, you would perform this massive pseudo homing attack on them and destroy everyone on the screen. So, my idea was that there is an enemy on this roulette wheel. If we could get close enough to the roulette wheel with a massively well-timed jump from Sonic, we could use this ability to launch ourselves onto the platform, destroying the enemy and sending ourselves straight down the tunnel without touching a ring. After about 20 minutes of experimenting, this is the moment that I realised my idea was actually quite fruitful. Case of my jump being wrong. We can tornado all the way out here. I just saw the prompt for B-Flash. This means the game has detected an enemy for us to lock onto with that ability. So this is where I knew I was onto something. and it was just a case of trial and error until we got another step further. I'm not getting anything out of this one either. And again, it spawns, it's within distance, but we get blocked. Just when all hope seemed lost, I hit a breakthrough. There is a piece of tech in this game known as, I think it's like ledge jump, which is where if you are to jump, if you do a kick off of a Oh! We fucking got it! We fucking got it! Too overjoyed by this discovery, I completely forgot that I had other teammates that also ended up on the roulette table as it began counting, as you just saw. And these two pass in front of me, go left and right, and have rings on them. So my next objective was to find a way onto the roulette table without anybody else following me. And there is no way to get your characters out of bounds in this stage of the level, so it is entirely down to luck whether or not we get on this table without collecting a ring. And this is why it took me so long to get any further. So we went left last time. It forced us to go left. Oh no, wait! Oh, I fucked up big time. We could have just dropped. I'm going to be careful not to hit them at the bottom, and then the rest of it's smooth sailing. This is possible. Fuck! I had it as well. After what felt like days, part of me wanted to give up because this was incredibly difficult to pull off, and it was entirely down to luck whether or not anyone else got on the table. But I persevered, and this was the winning attempt. Here we go. Oh. We've done it. 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 It's done. It's done. It's done. We've did it. It's possible. It's fucking possible. Oh, I am so fucking chuffed right now. I am so happy. You do not understand. Oh my fucking god. Probably world's first roulette table skip. I am so unbelievably happy with that. Unable to keep the bulge in my pants down, it was time to lock in and finish the level for good. And I'm happy to report the rest of the level wasn't all that difficult to get by without having to pick a ring up. Of course, the pinball sections were annoying as it also required luck, but thanks to the use of save states we didn't have to restart the entire level to go all the way back, as to get this in one go would be, well, pathetically lucky. But regardless to that, we carried on, we kept moving strong, and we finished the level without collecting a single ring. World's first casino park, 0 rings on YouTube. Eat your heart out. After what felt like the greatest victory of my life, we move on to Bingo Highway, the secondary stage of the casino levels, and with how hard the last one was, I was hoping this one wasn't going to cause me as many problems, and thankfully it didn't in the long run. A couple of sections here and there that required restarts because the ring placement wasn't ideal, or the slot machines again being unlucky, or the characters on the pinball tables, but beside that, the majority of the level was smooth sailing. That is until we got to the end of the stage and my heart shattered. Shit. It was at this point I was desperately looking for an answer to get past this section without having to go in that tunnel. Nowhere on the internet could tell me anything useful other than there was a skip earlier in the level, and even though I had tried that for a good hour, I could not get anywhere near close to pulling it off with how difficult it was. So I threw that idea aside, and I had to accept defeat. Bingo Highway was not possible without collecting rings, so the new plan was to minimise what we collected, being as little as possible in this tunnel, and then none on the table. Doing this without collecting a ring was relatively easy provided you threw the other two of your team members off the stage as soon as you left the tunnel, and after that we completed Bingo Highway with a total of only 3 rings collected, but I deciphered the minimum to be 2, I just couldn't be bothered to go back and do it without collecting the other one. Next up we faced the first arena fight of the game, Robot Carnival, and it was also here I remembered we spawned on top of a ring, much like the Team Rose fight, making it absolutely impossible to finish without collecting the ring. However, it is doable, much like Team Rose, to finish with only 1 ring provided you don't accidentally pick up any of the rings on the outside of the arena. The intense rail canyon came next, and this was one where I also feared we'd just randomly start picking rings up on the rails, so we played it safe again as Tails, moving at an absolute snail's pace throughout the entirety of the level to play absolutely safe, and by doing this, we got through the level relatively unscathed. I'm happy to report after only a couple of little knocks and restarts, Rail Canyon is one of the easier ones to complete without collecting any rings, and definitely should not have been the level brought back for Shadow Generations. Bullet Station, another one of my favourite stages. This one has some amazing set pieces, a great soundtrack, and all around a good time. Now, in terms of this challenge, getting around, not a problem. A couple of sections here and there that make you rethink your route and, plan accordingly. But it was smooth sailing until we reached the level's main set piece, and that is the big cannons that shoot you through a canyon. There are ring bubbles scattered everywhere in this section, and you can weave left and right to avoid them as well as spikes. However, in the first and second cannon section, there are a good few bubbles that are impossible to dodge. As well as the bobsleigh later in the level, there's roughly 5 rings that you cannot dodge. So you end up finishing this level with an eye-watering tally of 54 rings. And that is a massive hit to completing this game with as minimal rings as possible. To pile on the grief even further after that massive blow, we spawn on top of a ring at the start of the Egg Albatross fight, meaning that it's impossible to beat the fight with 0 rings. However, it's very easy to complete the fight without picking up any further, so we finished this fight with a total of 1 ring. After that shitfest, it was time to move on to a nicer atmosphere. Frog Forest is up next, another fan favourite stage. This one again has hardly any issues when you go through the stage normally. Most of the rings are dodgeable, the set pieces are avoidable, everything's all fine and dandy. That is until you get to your first section where you fly on these flowers, and that's where the problem arises. On this first section, the flower forces you to go into a ring balloon, and there is no way around it. You can't go up or down to avoid this balloon, so you are forced into collecting 5 rings. This is the only instance of this happening, however, so the rest of the stage after that is as simple as get to the goal ring. But it's still annoying that we can't complete the stage without any rings, considering how easy of a time the rest of the stage is. It's just this one automated sequence, and it's sequences like this that end up fucking us up on a lot, and I mean a lot, of areas in this run. Lost Jungle was very similar to Frog Forest in the vein of this challenge in that the terrain was quite easy to navigate, never had any problems when it came to accidentally picking up rings. However, there was one section that made me want to pull my hair out, and it was this triple rope swing into a balloon. No matter who you was, how far you could jump, there was no getting past this balloon without picking it up after the rope swing, so therefore we had to finish the stage with collecting 5 rings, which again is very annoying because the rest of the stage we go by relatively unscathed, and it feels like you're very proud of yourself for getting this far, just to be ruined at the end by a singular balloon. And of course we battle Team Dart next, which much like Team Rose, we spawn on top of a ring, making it doable by only collecting a singular ring. I was excited to play Hang Castle, after all it's one of the best levels in the game, but then I remembered something that I pointed out earlier. There is a section like that in Hang Castle, I think it is, where you are forced into a lightspeed dash. So, and I know it's a long lightspeed dash, it's part of the set piece, so that's going to be an issue when we get to it. As true as that was, this level likes to annoy us from the start as we are forced into collecting 5 rings on the opening stretch of the stage. Not much later in the level we encounter this door, and if we are to go around the long way, the intended path, we have to perform a lightspeed dash of approximately 30 rings to get to the switch to open the door. Now, there is this little trick you can do called door skip, which allows you to phase through the door, and it's quite easy to do. So we perform that, minimising the rings we collect, and the rest of the level goes quite nicely until we get to the aforementioned lightspeed dash section. I tried to make a little jump out so we minimise the rings that we collect in this section, but due to the camera rotation in this section, it completely breaks the lightspeed dash, forcing us to take almost every single ring on the path. And this is where the ring count also goes up by an unhealthy amount. With no other issues going forward, Hang Castle is finished with an absolutely disgusting 56 rings, being the largest collected in any stage during this challenge. Mystic Mansion, my second favourite stage in the game. This one also went better than I expected for a majority of the run. Our first main obstacle came in the form of these bobsleigh sections. The platforming is fine, but as soon as you reach these things, there are problems because there are rings on the tracks, and of course you can't steer this one, it's an automated section. However, after a little bit of testing, I found out that you can perform frame-perfect jumps to land in between the rings and not pick one up. And that's exactly what I did. It took a good few tries, but we got there in the end. However, this hard work was in vain as we get to the end of the stage, and I remember in this little pumpkin room, to get into the final gauntlet of the level, you have to perform a light speed dash, and this is where our rings come from in the total from this level. And it's a royal shame as well because we did so well to get so far, only for it to come crashing down at the end. We finished Mystic Mansion with a grand total of 32 rings. Robot Storm, we already know the crack. It's exactly the same as Robot Carnival, so therefore we spawn on top of one ring and you just need to be careful to not collect any more going through it. So Robot Storm was doable in only one ring. Egg Fleet pisses us off in the same vein Hang Castle does by making us run into a line of rings as the stage begins. Thankfully it's only 4 this time instead of 5, however it's still quite frustrating. The rest of the level you'd expect to be quite difficult with all the rings littered everywhere and the jumping across rails and airships, but it was actually a relative breeze. I think I only had to load 2 save states throughout the entirety of the stage. So yes, Egg Fleet is actually one of the easier ones to complete ringless, believe it or not. We only have to collect 4 rings in that stage, and they're the 4 rings that we're forced to collect at the start of the stage, and that's relatively annoying because otherwise that stage is actually really easy to not pick a ring up on. And now the moment I was looking forward to the most in this playthrough. Final Fortress, my favourite stage in the game and perhaps my favourite stage in Sonic history. How did this one go down? Well, I'm actually quite surprised that it wasn't that bad. Fair enough, there aren't as many rings in this stage as there are in most of the other stages. However, with the boss arenas, well, mini-boss arenas, as well as the constant rail grinding with the rings that blend into the rails, a couple of light speed dashes here and there, this was all about picking out the right way to go to avoid the rings. And sure enough, knowing this level at the back of my hand, that was pretty easy to do. As the final level in the main campaign, we've passed the hard part and all we have left is one boss battle before we can find out how many rings it's possible to beat Team Sonic Story in. With that said, Final Fortress, we got a lovely perfect clear. Beautiful. Fuck. And now only one challenge stood in our way. Egg Emperor, and I thought we would spawn on top of a ring for this fight, but we actually don't. This is the first fight since Egg Hulk where we don't have that problem. Now the question is the rest of the fight doable without collecting any rings? Now given that the rings are only on a set path and they circle around the boss when it gets to the fighting arena, the answer is yes, because the balloons and everything else are totally optional. You just need to pray and hope that Tails doesn't fucking shoot them. That said, we finished Team Sonic's campaign on Egg Emperor with 0 rings collected.
You're finished, Eggman!
So, Sonic Heroes without rings in Team Sonic Story. Is it possible? Sadly, no. However, the results do vary across stages. Some you collect 0 rings whatsoever, and in other stages you are forced to collect quite a lot, and it's quite upsetting. So, I'm going to add them all up now, just while I waffle away to you. Thanks for watching this far. If you've made it this far, by the way, it means a lot. You know, we've been doing a lot of different things on this channel recently, and I've been sort of killing the second channel in the process. But, you know, we'll get there. Okay. Our grand total of rings we collected on our journey in Team Sonic Story is... Now, before we go any further, why don't we take a look at what the other 2 YouTubers who have attempted this challenge before, let's take a look at their final total. Cat Goblin's Game Review finished this with 253 rings collected in Team Sonic Story, which is actually a pretty commendable figure given that they did not discover the routes in Bingo Highway and Casino Park that I discovered. As far as Challenger Jakku goes, there was never a final figure given in his video, and granted that he's always switching between Team Sonic Rose and Dark's gameplay, we can't come up with a concrete figure, but I'm going to assume that it's roughly similar to that of Cat Goblin, mainly because of the constant shifting between stories to try and find one that has less rings on the path. So, with that being said, how many did we get? $166 is our final total, and that makes me very happy to be the person on YouTube that collected the least amount of rings while playing Sonic Heroes. Quite a niche flex, but here we are. First ever Casino Park 0 rings, lowest amount on Bingo Highway, and the lowest amount overall. Top dog, top dollar. Now, before we cut back to past me, I'd just like to say, you might have noticed this video got shortened down a lot after the Casino Park and Bingo Highway section. That's because I didn't want it to be 2 hours long. Finish on 166. Thanks a ton for watching. This has been a really fun experiment, I'm not going to lie. Frustrating in places. Very chuffed about the Casino Park Zero Ring. I believe that is a world's first. That's been documented anyway. So very happy about that. And yeah, I might try this again with the other teams, but for now we shall see where the future holds, because I really want to play Shadow Reloaded. But anyways, yeah, thanks Tom, and I'll catch you on the flip side. And goodbye.